Hi, my name is Sue. I do short FAQ videos and how-to videos on Dutchsinse's work. And I am also the person who put the arrows on the map. And I mention this because this video is actually about looking at the globe without arrows. Because I think for people who are new and have been learning about Dutchsinse's work and have only seen the arrows, it's quite a good idea to be familiar with the globe without, so that you can recognize formations and patterns and things, just using a bit of imagination. So I just want to look at the map here quickly before we lose the arrows, and we're going to start off looking from Fiji. Now, I think a lot of viewers know where Fiji is, but if you're new, Fiji is this tiny island north of New Zealand, and we have a letter D right next to it. The letter D means where deep earthquakes regularly happen, and there are a few around the planet, but we're going to choose Fiji because it's where it's most common, it seems. And I have got a video on my channel called "Why Are Deep Earthquakes Important?" There's lots of information that Dutch has on his website, FAQ, and he does state, repeat, the information on his videos quite regularly. Okay, so here's Fiji. Now we're going to look at the globe without any arrows. Here we go, a beautiful planet without clutter. So here's Fiji. We have our D here, and we've got these very clear ridges and things. Now, once we see and learn these little these ridges and things, you also naturally see where the fault lines would be as well, and you may even discover more fault lines than what we're taught with generic fault line maps. But having said that, some countries have actually done very extensive research on their own fault lines. For example, New Zealand, if you look at their website, they've got a very good fault line map, and it's so crazy that if you think about it, there's got to be fault lines all over the place, even the Pacific Plate, and we will go into that where there are ridges and things. So we have our deep earthquake at Fiji, and if you imagine a pressure coming from that deep earthquake and where it's going to go next. So if you just think of it as a flow of progression, and it just goes along the fault lines, and it's always in the same direction pretty much. So we've got this ridge coming down towards New Zealand, so there's a bit of a clue that it's going to head down. And then we've got the ridge continuing going through New Zealand, where there's this very clear split, and then you have a mountain range, and then carries on down, and then it just ends at this, it just disappears. And then we've got an X point there, and we've noticed a termination of where the earthquake progression just stops. And there's a few X points that we have, and I'll show you soon. So, right, let's continue from the deep earthquake or Fiji, and then we head west along these ridges. So we have arrows following these ridges, and then through over Papua New Guinea, and then we've got this crazy confusing bit. I mean, if I were to do really detailed arrows, I would if I knew which way it was going in more detail. There's a very interesting swirly stuff going on, but there's also a deep D here as well, so that's going to be confusing anyway. But we have got a progression going beneath South Indonesia and then heading up towards Myanmar. I'm just going to concentrate going around the Pacific Plate first. So we're heading towards Philippines and then Taiwan, and there's this kink here, and then going up towards Japan, and then we got this diamond shape as well, and we actually got two-way arrows as well. sort of a slight ping pong effect, I think. So yeah, so there's a clear diamond shape, and then it carries on this ridge, and it keeps going round and towards America. Now, I think a majority of you viewers are from the States, so I'll go into detail in just a sec for the US. But as it comes down, you've got this edge as well of the continent, and then it comes down, keeps going down, and you also notice I'm going the clockwise direction around the ring of fire. So this is the ring of fire here, so where it makes the news for lots of earthquakes and volcanoes, but it's also, we've got a progression going clockwise. And another way to be able to tell that is how you get a lot of larger earthquakes along here, and then they decrease in size, in magnitude, as they go along. But sometimes that's not always true, and it depends on the eastward pressure the Pacific plate is going, which is part of the Dutchsinse progression, and these ridges are a bit of a clue, and so we have arrows going along these ridges and then hitting towards South America. So we're continuing down clockwise and then down to South America, and then we carry on to this sort of backwards C shape here, and we actually have an X point termination point here as well. We do have another C, backwards C shape here, and then we've got the pressure going towards it too. So this is quite interesting to see these similarities in shapes. Now the US, with the interior fault and craton, Dutch mentions about. So if we go from Alaska and Canada, I don't know my US very well, so I'm going to make mistakes here, so excuse me please. So we've got the edges of the mountains here, and we have arrows coming down through here. So you've got this edge, and then you've got Yellowstone, and then there's like a edgy bit here, and then you've got this U-bend, which the arrow that we have now is not going over at the moment. I've got it a bit wrong at the moment, so I'll need to correct that, but we have got this U-bend here, and then the N shape that Dutch has mentioned, which is here, and then up along here, and then it goes up, and then where this kind of splits. Now if you imagine the pressure coming up, possibly ripping this apart, which would make sense, wouldn't it, really? And then this is broken off. And then this is a similar thing, we have an arrow coming up here. If there's enough stuff going on here, earthquake-wise, then it pushes up here, and we get odd earthquakes up here as well. More bits of islands breaking off or something. So really interesting that we got pressure coming from the west to the east for the US, and then the shape of it, and these curves and things. So we have got some mini arrows that come from a letter D here that goes up and then down, but inland, and we have got an edge here, but I still don't quite get the two-way arrows thing. I mean, it makes sense for the big one here, but I think maybe it's the deep earthquakes are doing an outward pressure as well. So yeah, so that's the Pacific plate. Coming back to Indonesia, so I said it's coming up here from beneath Indonesia up towards China, Myanmar, around Smith Island, and then you got this flow that bends, and then you got Nepal, and then this sort of very, very, very clear line here, and then of course we've got our highest mountain and highest mountains and around here, and so if you think of all that pressure coming in, and all that grinding and crunching of mountains. It kind of is no surprise. Those mountains are pretty high. So there we go. So we got more flowing of land here, and then even up here as well. And we have actually got an arrow coming from Kamchatka, Russia, heading over China, or Russia and China, and then joining in with all the others. Now, Iran is interesting because you can see this sort of flow on the outside of Iran, and then on the other side, on the north side and south side, and we have got two arrows that go this way and then this way, and then it goes towards Turkey, and this kind of looks like sort of crazy and messy, and then it gets really messy at Greece, where it's all lots of islands. And then we've got a similarity with North America, or Canada, sorry, where there's islands breaking off, and maybe that's a similar thing with here. Earthquakes kind of pushing here, and then it's like sometimes got nowhere to go. And then when it does seek its way out, we've got the backwards S shape in Romania that Dutch has often mentioned about, and then we've got through Bosnia and lots of little countries there. Then we got Italy heading up the boot, and then we've got a mountain range, and then it sort of dead ends here, and there's mountains there, so you can see these shapes and things. And we've got an arrow coming through south of Spain, Gibraltar way. Actually, there's a bit of a shape going on here as well. Things going on. UK, I'm still a bit confused about, because I can't see very well a flow of anything. Maybe we are an example of something breaking off. So, yeah, not sure really. Island's getting a bit more bitty as it gets towards the Mid-Atlantic ridge of all the leftovers fragmenting apart. Maybe that's what the UK is. Right, Africa. Okay, so we've got volcanoes and things along here, and we've got a fault line going around here, sort of Saudi Arabia, and I can't remember where Egypt is. So we've got an arrow coming down here and then up towards Europe, and then we've also got an arrow coming down, which is not in a general fault line map. So we've noticed a pattern come down, and then we've got an X point here, and at the moment we've got lots of earthquakes happening at Mayotte, or near Madagascar. And there's a lot of pressure coming from the West Pacific at the moment. So, oh yes, I forgot to say that there's an arrow coming from Indonesia going towards Africa. So when we get a lot of things going on here, it affects and pushes towards South Africa. Yeah. Okay, so we've got these patterns here, and have a look at these ridges. And then we've got similar ridges here. If I were to turn the... Oh, I don't know how to do it. Yeah. So Africa is here on its side, and then you've got this ridge here, and then this sort of liney business here. And then I'll put north back on again. We go to the Mid-Atlantic ridge and have a look at the ridge. We've got a similar pattern. There's debate of whether it's spreading or compressing, and if it's got lines like this, it kind of looks like it's compressing, but then anyway, don't want to go too much into detail, but we have got X points here of where earthquakes appear to finish, and the ones, the ridges are similar, like the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, south of Africa. We've got X points here as well. So that's quite interesting, really. No doubt there'll be X points here, but it's rare that we get termination earthquakes. We do get them. There is one here, but this is a different kind of pattern. Strange kind of ridge. It's almost very similar to the Pacific Plate kind of ridges, where we also have arrows going along here, which could be fault lines, really, if you think about it. So if we look closely here, we've had ships that go along here and surveyed this area. You can see that they've gone and done certain parts, and then this is not done so clearly, and gives you an idea of how much of the ocean has not been explored, really. So these are sea mounts and things, and you can get to see some really clear sea mounts at the US somewhere. I'm getting this right. I found some earlier. Little tiny little coves. So there's a lot going on under the sea. Yeah, so that gives an idea, a bit of a way of exploring the map without the arrows, and I think that will help with memorizing the route. Yeah, hope this helps. Do visit my other videos, but of course they're all based on Dutch's work. Full credit to him. I just hope to help with the teaching a bit better, and I shall be making some more soon. Take care, everybody.